Hey everyone, and welcome to the Flixist Movie Review and Review. I'm Nathan, and on this segment I go through all of our staff's reviews of the movies coming out this weekend, and I tell you what they think. Today we're talking about The Secret Life of Pets 2 and Dark Phoenix. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Flixist Movie Reviews and Review. So on this segment I go through all of the critics for Flixist and I read their reviews of the movies coming out this weekend. Then I kind of summarize them up for you and let you know if they're worth seeing or maybe worth skipping. This weekend we're talking about two pretty big releases. One that I'm really interested to see that kind of battle at the box office. Those movies that we're talking about are Secret Life of Pets 2 and Dark Phoenix. I actually think Secret Life of Pets 2 is going to win the box office this weekend and make those people over at Fox really scratch their head and wonder what went wrong with Dark Phoenix. So we're going to start with the big one this week, I think, in terms of box office, and that's going to be the kids movie. We're going to go with Secret Life of Pets 2. Secret Life of Pets 2 was reviewed by Matt, and the film's got its big voices back. It has Kevin Hart and Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate is one of my absolute favorites. See Obvious Child if you haven't. Matt reviewed this film and he was pretty disappointed. He basically viewed this movie as a cash grab. It's not really devoted towards making plots and really great stories, but mostly just getting the characters on the screen so you remember them and the kids want to go home and buy those stuffed animals or toys. He basically says, think of your worst fears when they announced a sequel to Toy Story and you've got The Secret Life of Pets 2. He says the lack of focus and desperate plot lines make the movie feel more like it's forcing all the characters back into action instead of telling a story that really grew from them. He says nothing really changes much besides the 4-year gap. He says the storyline is basically the same except there's a new entrance of a child. He says honestly, it's 3 main stories. That's the story between Max, Snowball, and Gidget, if you remember them from the first one. If they were 3 separate shorts released to hype up a sequel, Matt would have given them really solid reviews. They all feature some truly funny stories, and that in short doses really work fantastically. But when you stitch them all together, however, it becomes a disjointed film that isn't able to pull through on any of its emotional payoffs. I completely understand what he's saying. He says the movie supplies fun, but it just can't deliver any of its heart. It hops from one plot to another as if it can't pay attention to anything for longer than a minute, and there's no thematic through line to connect them. You may argue that as a children's film, it's fun that it's okay, and I won't disagree, Matt says. There's enough solid humor and jokes about things that pets do in the movies to keep children entertained, but the reason great children's fare is great is because it goes beyond that. He'd also be remiss if he didn't talk about how terrible Harrison Ford was. He says it was impressive how much Harrison Ford phoned in the performance, and we can't believe that no one would have said anything to him. But to summarize his review, Matt says, The Secret Life of Pets 2 sums out at nothing. Its stories are pleasant and airy and have jokes, but they can't hold a film together. By the end of the movie, you know that the characters exist, but you don't know why they exist. Or do you really even care? The best children's films, the best films in fact, open up under their top layer to deliver something more. But Secret Life of Pets 2 is nothing underneath. Its secrets are empty. I see what you did there, Matt. Tie it in. I completely understand. And this is why Pixar is such a force in terms, or was a force. I know they've kind of lost its way, but it's really, they're more. They're not just animated films. They are clear storylines. And just because you have a 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional animation doesn't mean you have to just abandon having 3-dimensional characters. And it's incredibly disappointing. And most sequels tend to be kind of cash grabs. And it seems like this one doesn't excuse itself at all. So Matt gives it 5 out of 10 stars. Probably great for kids, just probably not great if you're looking for anything under the surface. Well, next up is Dark Phoenix. This film has been in production hell. There have been countless delays, many reshoots, and it's kind of cast a cloud under this. And Sam in his review kind of talks about how people have kind of picked one side or the other. You either are for it or against it and you don't care, you just want to see what X-Men's going to come up with, or you are warned and you don't want anything to do with it. We actually have 2 sides of this on our site. Rick wrote an article where he lists the 5 reasons why you should never see Dark Phoenix, and he goes into the reshoots, the trailer giving away too much, and basically the storyline being kind of regurgitated from other ones. But Sam went to go see it completely open-minded, completely not ignoring Rick and going for it. And what he says is, in a way, Dark Phoenix functions as X-Men's Civil War, where the Avengers were squabbling over how the government does or doesn't manage them. The mutants begin to manage the right way in what Xavier is doing, and if he's shielding them from the world and keeping them from doing what they want to do. So it's kind of following in a very similar storyline. He says if there's one thing that carries Dark Phoenix, it's its performances. There are incredibly talented actors in this film, with obviously Fassbender playing Magneto, and even Nightcrawler with Cody Smith-McPhee timidly coming across as genuine rather than irritating. But it's unfortunate that someone as good as Jessica Chastain is left to play a one-note pod person, but she does as well as it could be done. The fact is, he says, this is supposed to be a heart-wrenching culmination for the X-Men, but what we've gotten is such inconsistent fare before this. He goes in to talk about how Apocalypse was awful, and he feels utterly washed over in Phoenix, like they don't even pay attention to Apocalypse, like it wasn't even a movie that existed, and they kind of just put it to the side. So this film is basically just an assembly of hodgepodge of relationships and characters, and the gut punch that we should all be getting feels more like a one-off, oh, who is that again, kind of slap to the face. So basically what he's kind of talking about is the writing is very lazy. It's not what it should be. It's not the culmination, because obviously this is the final entry into the 20th Century Fox. Disney has the rights to it, so we all know that there will be more X-Men in the future, but I think they're going to really start fresh, start with its own thing. He talks about the action in this film really feels off, and that they try to do something to where it's more kind of intimate. But smaller isn't always better, Sam says, with the spectacle feeling less spectacular and instead more tired and familiar. And he says tired may just be the best way to describe this entire film. He goes to summarize, with Dark Phoenix looking to be the final chapter of these particular X-Men stories, it's even more difficult to not feel a little disappointed. Rather than the drama hitting like a culmination of all the characters we love, it just feels like another one, lacking the pizzazz and heart of something like Avengers Endgame or the final Harry Potter films. And he goes in to give this film 5.5 out of 10 stars. He basically says what everyone was worried. This film is a mess. It relies on a really solid performance by Sophie Turner, but it's just not what it should be, and it's basically just a blown opportunity. But who cares? Because they're with Disney now, where all the money and all the options are available. So we have 2 pretty much middle-of-the-pack films, as you can see here. But obviously, if you're an X-Men fan, you're going to go see the movie. You're going to check it out. If you're a children's film fan, you've got kids that want to go see a movie, you're going to go see the movie. So go. Enjoy it. But now you know what to expect. Well, I am Nathan. That was the Flixist crew, and that was the movie review and review. We'll see you guys next week.